Uh, but yeah,
That does
thanks for
not sound like a bad thing, honestly.
no, yeah, yeah.
No,
What
I'm
I
not sure
found
how
is
deep you edit, but if you like really get into the nitty gritty and you're playing back your voice several times over, like, man, that can get exhausting.
yeah, in the old Skype days, I'd have to do that. Um,
Oh, yeah.
since I edit a few different podcasts now, I don't have the time for that. Like we did one of these last week where there was a little foible in the summary or the prologue, so I went and edited that. But yeah, someone asked if
Fair
someone
enough.
asks for an edit, I'll do it.
That's fair. That's fair. I'm
But
very finicky about that. Like I am a I'm too thorough of an editor, but thankfully I don't have to edit very much because so much of what I do is like live video now.
yeah, so you can't
Like
really
Mission
do
Log
any of
Prodigy, we
that.
record that live. We can edit the audio, but fortunately Earl does that. So
Right.
I don't even have to worry about it.
Yeah, when I the first several podcasts we were doing with the sci-fi movies, I'd go in and like take out like the spaces and stuff, and the
Mm-hmm.
more I listen to
Mm-hmm.
other people, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, if it's fully pro, cool, but it's maybe the work and the result is not flush with each other.
I mean, it is a lot of effort. It can be painstaking effort, even. So, I mean, that ultimately has to be your choice. Like how much time versus reward. That's your balance that you got to find, you know?
And the film one, we've brought in a third person, which is nice because that way you don't have to just like keep trying to fill in gaps as much, right?
Uh-huh. Sure. The conversation always keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah. And then if they get into, sometimes they get a little break because if they're going to start doing like gamer talk for 5 minutes, I'm probably tapping out somewhat. So,
It's good. You can take a little break, look through your notes, that sort of thing.
exactly. Um, I guess
Cool.
the format of this is exactly the same as the Twilight Zones. The questions are
Okay.
still there. They're slightly different, but not much. We
All
got thrown
right.
off last week because we did one that turned out to be like basically a documentary instead of an episode. So that
Oh,
threw us for a little bit of a loop.
interesting.
Yeah.
This show is interesting, but I'll have to save it for the actual show.
Okay. Well, give a 5 second pause that I can spot to easy edit, and we'll get going. Hello, welcome to Time Enough Podcast. It's where we are going beyond today, one step beyond. While the strikes are continuing, we're having a look at a slightly different show, analogous contemporaneous one to the Twilight Zone, one step beyond. This is Matt here, joining me from the Mission Log Prodigy podcast is Charlynn Schmiedt. Hi.
Hi.
Thanks for jumping in again.
Of
I do have
course.
to, I have, do have to ask about your shirt. Is that a melting skull brain?
Yes, yes, it is. I'm not sure if the viewers can see that, but I can send you a link. If you want to put it in the show notes, you can buy it. It's a
Ah.
very multicolored melting skull, perfect for spooky season.
Oh yeah, we're just coming up on there. There was something Halloween. Oh, I ate a Halloween donuts. That's what it was. Okay, I
Nice.
knew there was some Halloween somewhere in there recently.
I've been thinking of making a Halloween soap, but most of the soap I make is Trek inspired. So I was thinking maybe I could do something inspired by the episode Cat's Paw, because that is like the Halloween episode. But I don't know, man. I think I need to go in a different direction. I'm still thinking on it, which I better hurry because we're halfway through September when we're recording this.
Yeah, I think that's one of the Cat's Paw is one of the few episodes I've never actually made it through. So
Oh, no kidding.
there's like two or three that I've never made it through, and that's one of them. Yeah.
Oh, man. I quite like that one. You'll have to give it another chance sometime. You never know. You might like it this time or
Yeah,
not.
I mean there's always those couple like totally trash episodes that like you just love. Um
Oh, totally. We've all got them. Yeah.
so that's not one of mine for better or for worse, but hey, could be yours.
So, yeah, that is all
Now,
right.
so far, I don't this show is not one that I think is in the pop culture language one step beyond. Most people are like, hey, I didn't hear about it till you invited me to the podcast, which if it's different, that's cool, but don't feel bad if that's your stance.
That's exactly my story. Was I had no idea this show existed. I didn't even know it was Twilight Zone adjacent. nothing about it whatsoever. And now that I've watched an episode, I'm fascinated. I would be willing to watch more.
Yeah, I mean, I've said on some episodes of this, I basically learned about it when Amazon was like, you may also like this. So,
Hmm.
one point for Amazon. Today,
One, just one.
yeah, it's emergency only. I keep wanting to say emergencies only, but I guess there's only one emergency in this. So, and that's what the label says. So, emergency only. Um, I guess I'll go ahead and do a bit of trivia on this.
All
Once I
right,
bring that.
cool.
Original air date was February 3rd, 1959. As with all One Step Beyond episodes, this was directed by our presenter, John Newland. Our regular trio of Collier Young, Lawrence B. Marcus, and show creator Merwin Gerard scripted. I have done trivia about them before, so you can go to an earlier one if you want to hear that. Arthur
Right.
Douglas was played by Lynn McCarthy. He also appeared in 4 episodes of The Fugitive, as well as a spot on the notorious nuclear TV movie Parable, The Day After, which is supposed to. I think I was 4 years old when that came out, but people a little older were properly scarred by it, I believe.
I've heard it's actually like, yes, disturbing, but also very well done. I've not watched it.
It is. I've watched it. I mean, it does have. It feels like a early '80s TV movie with a little bit of a budget. Like it's somewhere between, you know, TV schlock and a proper feature film. So it's not quite to that level, but it's kind of long too.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it's worth watching at least once. And then I
Okay.
think the even more disturbing British one is called Threads or something, which has come up a few times.
Nice.
Our psychic here, Erin Larrabee, was played by Jocelyn Brando. If the name sounds familiar, she was in fact Marlon Brando's older sister. She
Hey,
also showed up
I
in
wondered.
films like, yeah. I didn't catch on until I was starting to do trivia, so I didn't notice in the credits. Let's say that. She also showed up in films like The Big Heat and Mommy Dearest.
Hmm.
Finally, the alluring unnamed passenger was played by Paula Raymond. She got some traction as a genre leading lady in films like Hand of Death and Devil's Doorway. So, B grade leading lady, but hey, if you're a leading lady.
All right.
Though a major 1962 car crash threw her career off track, she did recover, gained a baker's dozen of TV guest spots, and lived for another 40 years. So,
Oh,
um,
wow.
I guess got past that bugaboo a bit. Bugaboo a bit. That's hard to say.
Yeah. All right. Interesting stuff.
I've got a prologue for you. If you could give that a quick read, please.
All right. Yes, I can. Like, oh, thousands of other people in Manhattan, Jim and Betty Hennessy are giving a cocktail party. Now, all those other parties will end with people falling in love with each other, with people getting sore at each other, with hangovers, and with plenty of work for the maid. But this one, oh boy, this one.
What a party. Okay. I guess the party's just the first 5 minutes, but do
Yeah,
you want
apparently
to
a pooper of a party, according to the hosts.
yeah, don't feats of psychic skill at parties is maybe not the best parlor trick. I don't know.
Like they were asking for it, don't you think? Like, hey, they were just kind of egging Ellen on, like, hey, do the psychic thing, do the party trick, come on. And she's just like, I can't turn it on at will. I have to be ready. So she was like, I noticed she kind of stared off into the distance, wasn't completely there, but then all of a sudden, boom, back in. And she's like, okay, I'll do it now.
Yeah. I do wonder how often she does it or what the vibe is. I don't know. I feel like if I'm gonna come across a psychic, I don't think I'd want to hear about the future. I'm not so interested in like telltelling or whatever.
Right. Well, and as this episode illustrates, context is very important.
Of course, yeah. I did get properly thrown by the actual twist here. So I guess I've been
Same
watching
here.
too many Twilight Zones where it does end dark, but then this show is supposed to be based on real life events. So I guess someone has to be there to tell the story. Um,
So, can you presume a happy ending for most of these episodes? Is that the shtick?
no, one we just did one where a woman dies a horrible death with a ghost while everyone is watching her. So she gets
Oh,
fired.
wow, that sounds terrible.
There's lots of witnesses. That's all.
Okay. Okay. Well, this one ended up happy, which was a twist because maybe we're just far too cynical in our day and age, but a happy ending is not expected.
No, yeah, this one I guess is kind of fun for all the weird synchronicities, and I guess it's just the psychic's demeanor, like again, it's context. She's saying it like she's, doesn't want to be saying all of these horrible things that are going to happen. Where if it was like, hey, yeah, just when you see this, pull it, that might have been a little.
That might have been a little bit better, sure, and could have had the same result with far less terror for Douglas, although we would have missed that really good acting watching the character of Douglas as things go from trying to keep it cool to absolutely just insanity.
I mean, I guess he does literally walk into it somewhat, because he's like, well, I'm flying. Why would it be a train? Oh, now I'm taking a train. Maybe
Right?
things are looking a little weird here. Why not just I don't know, they're in New York. That they what did they say there? Somewhere Idlewild, that's near Coney Island. Go ride the Cyclone. See if you fly off of
Right.
that instead. Eat a Nathan's, you know?
Does that have an emergency release in case it gets too intense?
Oh, Nathan's probably should. Yeah, those hot dogs you don't know what they're going to do to your system.
Yeah, why was it so important to get to Chicago at that moment? I wonder.
And of course, I started thinking about planes, trains, and automobiles. I mean, this is pretty much
Of course.
less psychics in that movie, but kind of the plot of that in a weird way. So,
Yeah, that's sort of like anything that can go wrong will mentality.
right, right. So, I don't know. Sometimes you should just stop, I guess, is the point, especially if you, well, what would you do? You've just had a creepy prediction, and now that key's starting to turn a little bit.
I hate to admit it, but I'd probably be a little bit like Douglas in this whole thing where I'm, I don't know. I guess I'm pretty skeptical when people say that they're psychics. I don't know. I've never actually known a psychic, never had a psychic reading or anything like that. I don't know if it's real, but if I started seeing one too many things in succession happening that somebody were to foretell me, like in this party here, okay, maybe I would be a little freaked out. Like holding on to rationality would get harder the more it happened.
Yeah, it's kind of like the boots on the ground situation. Like, when you watch a game show and someone does something completely stupid, and you're like, why would you possibly do that?
Right. And then you go on the game show and you do even worse. And it's because that there's a lot of pressure being out there. You have no idea until you're in that moment how hard it is.
My favorite was Wheel of Fortune. I think this is a notorious '90s one where it was like blank space out Rushmore, so they guessed Count Rushmore.
Oh no. That's terrible.
Yeah, but then again, you're on camera. Maybe you got a little stage fright. You're flipping out a little bit. You're
Totally.
technically competing, so it comes out weird. You
Yeah.
suddenly think it was some weird French count or something. So
Yeah,
I
I mean,
mean,
it could be, right? It's
I
something
would
in the Carpathian Mountains that you've maybe vaguely heard about sometime in grade school. You can second guess yourself so easily in those kind of moments.
I was listening to a recent podcast and watched a few clips of the '90s show. I think it's Legends of the Lost Temple, the
Oh,
game show,
uh-huh.
the Nickelodeon one, and you watch that and
Yeah.
you're like, why are these kids so stupid? Well, because they're running through this weird temple thing, and people are jumping at them, and no, they can't put together the monkey at the end because their adrenaline's too high. So it
Right.
happens.
Yeah. And also you wouldn't have a story if they were smart enough to figure it out right away.
No, him riding the cyclone well, it could be a different story. I don't know. Um, I hurt my back on the cyclone once. That was fun.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah.
Yikes. So there is a potential for danger, is what you're saying.
Yeah, or at least some muscle pain for sure.
Mm. Yeah, this whole story might have had a very different ending, but maybe even worse. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, one thing I did like was getting our 1959 shots of a Grand Central Station. This is right around the time North by Northwest, stuff like that. So, and,
Uh-huh.
and and the whole, I don't know if you've seen that movie, but the whole train journey had a bit of that by meeting a meeting a mysterious lady on a train, that sort of thing.
Oh, sure. No, I haven't seen that movie, but it's kind of a trope, isn't it? Like it sort of
Yeah,
exists in other stuff
it,
too.
it, it does, but maybe it's because of the design things being late 50s, like wearing a suit on the train, that sort of thing. Because if you watch the
Yeah,
modern movie, it would have a very different vibe. So,
that's very true. Nobody's dressing up to travel. No way.
because I guess the States has a few like tourist trains.
Yeah, it's not nearly as many as you're going to find elsewhere, but yes, they do exist.
Yeah, because I in Japan, there's just a like rolling past my house probably during this podcast is going to be like a day train. It's a 3-car thing. One's a super nice dining train. One's like kind of for the family, and I don't remember what the one in between is because I don't ride it that often because I'm usually going to work.
So why would you be taking a tourist train? Or is it just kind of a multi-use? Is it something tourists take as well as people who are commuting or something like that?
No, you got to pay extra. You wouldn't commute on this train. It's definitely
I
for the
gotcha.
tourists, but it runs on the same line as the normal trains, and
Gotcha.
you'll you'll
Okay.
you'll get things like like not here, but some ours is kind of the local samurai clan themed, right? Because this town's big for the Sanada uh, clan. If in Japanese history, that's one of the big families that got knocked out when the country kind of unified somewhat. Um, but yeah, you can go take a Pokemon train too, something like that. There's
Oh,
I
that's
think there's
cool.
yeah. For kids, there's Ampamon. Ampamon is a superhero whose head is made out of a red bean bun. All the kids in Japan love him, and you can ride his train if you want. So
Awesome. If I were a kid, I would love that. Of course I'd go.
exactly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, trains are not exciting here the way they are in Japan, it sounds like. I mean, we have commuter trains in Los Angeles. You can take the Metro Light Rail and then there's the Metrolink lines, but that's mostly for people who really just need to get to and fro, into downtown to go to work and then come back home.
Right, and I mean that's my day to day train. It's not that exciting. So, um, but one thing I did like in this episode is kind of how he gets it slightly too late. When he's already on the moving train. Like maybe I should have like maybe not stepped all the way into this. So that was a nice creepy vibe of it.
Totally. That was very well executed. And this guy had so many chances to walk away. Did he not?
Yeah, or he could even Willoughby it and jump off the train if he's worried too much. I mean, I guess he's got to save a
Right.
bunch of lives ultimately, so he is where he needs to be. Which
Sure, he just doesn't know that until after the fact. But like, I was especially thinking with the conductor, here's your sign to get the heck out of there and do something else. Do anything but what you're about to do. If you don't want to go down this road, this is your chance. The universe is telling you this is not meant to be. And then what does he do? He keeps on going. Just sort of like how the unnamed lady in her travel suit keeps going after Douglas. Like, why? This is not a good situation. He is not a winner. Why are you pursuing this guy? Get out of there.
Yeah, see, in North by Northwest, there's there was. I guess I won't spoiler a 70-year-old movie, but there's more of a reason she's pursuing the guy, right? Where here, yeah, she's like, what are you doing? you know,
Yeah.
when the vibes are wrong, maybe don't jump on into it. But
Yeah. And they totally just absolutely are. I can see him, why he would come on strong, knowing what he knows, that he's going to meet this lovely dark haired lady. But she doesn't know that. And yet she, like, for especially the small amount of time these two have known each other, it's been nothing but awkward and suspicious. So I don't know. If I were a single female traveling on a train and some creeper keeps running into me, I'm getting the heck out of there.
yeah,
I'm not doing it.
my note is why is she so insistent for an obvious psycho? So
Maybe she's got some problems, and like this is like attracts like here. I don't know. We honestly didn't get to know them well enough.
although the point I was about to go out, I guess could apply to her too, if we did want to somehow justify her behavior. Because I was sitting here wondering, um, does Arthur Douglas have free will?
I mean, that's kind of a good question at this point because now is it a self-fulfilling prophecy?
Yeah, because this episode sort of suggests no, he does not have free will. He's locked into this
So,
regardless.
okay, Question, at what point does he lock himself into it? Like, was he damned from the beginning? Or is it with each certain step, does he cross a line to where this is going to happen no matter what he does at this point?
Well, it depends on how powerful the psychic prediction is, and not as a do you believe it or not in the real world, but in the context of the show, how definitive is a psychic prophecy? Because this one sort of suggests like it's been made. You see the psychic lady completely flip out about it, right? So she knows the power of what she's doing. So that says to me there is no free will in this episode.
Okay. Yeah, I do have to agree with that take, where she does seem to be a very powerful psychic. And if she really is foretelling the future, then that's the future. Yeah.
I mean, I do have a pair of tarot cards that were in my backpack for a while, and I bored at work. We're like doing the I was like doing the deck for one of my coworkers, and I don't know. I'm looking at the little white paper that comes with it. Oh, this seems to mean that. But I gave him a really bad prediction, and then he proceeded to have a really bad year. So,
Right. That would be, I don't know. I think that would not be a great sign for your friendship going forward. You remember that bad tarot reading you gave me? You suck. I'm having a horrible year. You were right.
yeah, that could be the case. I don't know, but yeah, that just came across as weird. But
Well,
to me,
here's a question for you: Is this show definitely brings up the whole idea of like the supernatural and things that can't always be explained, and do you believe in it or don't you? What is your stance on this?
um, see, that's why I'm saying the narrative here. It does seem like free will is there. At the same time, what I really like is the whole synchronicity vibe, because if you're looking for little signs in the universe, you tend to find them, especially if you are looking for them. And even
Sure.
something, just you see something that makes you think, hey, I think I'll turn left instead of turning right because you just saw something, or someone says something to you. It's kind of like having a conversation with the universe. Whereas this episode would make it seem more like something that happens to you. So
Right. Yeah, this episode is trying to convince you that this is absolutely real. Although I do like the whole vibe of maybe it's just real enough to where it could be real. It's not like Twilight Zone where you're watching a piece of fiction. It's a story. This show, it seems like wants you to open your mind to the more unexplainable. It kind of reminded me strangely of Unsolved Mysteries. Did you ever watch it?
um a lot of it, although I don't have the firmest memories, because it's one of those things where you saw a lot of it and it was just on in the background, which
Yeah. Oh, I
on
remember it
a recent
because
podcast I did suggest that it's actually deeper in your subconscious that way, where you weren't like watching it directly, because we were
oh,
talking about
it man, no,
DuckTales. I never sat down and watched DuckTales, but I saw a lot of it, like just kind of in the side, and it's like I know
in the
everything about it. But
background.
yeah, but sorry, I was interrupting your point there.
No, that's okay. Unsolved Mysteries terrified me at the ripe old age of 6, I think, when it premiered in the late 80s. And I was not supposed to watch the show, and it came on at like 9 p.m. and I was supposed to go to bed at 10 p.m. So I would watch Unsolved Mysteries and then have nightmares because I had just been watching a thing about murder and I'm 6 years old. Hello. But that show also it incorporated true crime, but also with certain supernatural things. Like they talk about UFOs and they would talk about psychics and ghosts and stuff like that. It was an interesting hodgepodge between the two. Like nothing had ever quite been like that. A lot of it, like the true crime was just strictly true crime. There was like America's Most Wanted and stuff like that. But UFOs were kind of their own little weirdo thing until Robert Stack started talking about it.
And I guess that is the late 80s, early 90s version of the show. In that case, there's it's like a whole lot more presenting. Robert Stack's like narrating and stuff, if I remember correctly. Uh,
Yes.
and then it's just little vignettes, it's not like a narrative work like this one. But
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
I mean, just to bash a pun over the head, that puts us, shows only one step beyond the Unsolved Mysteries in that case. So
Yeah, it does seem like a little bit of a predecessor. I don't know if there was any influence whatsoever, but I see it.
I do wonder, especially now that I guess peak TV is probably officially past now, but I feel like maybe to people like right here and now, we don't want to see so much of the real life thing. We want to see the like show run, puzzle box, seasons thought out show more.
Mm-hmm. Because
Like,
we don't get that anymore.
yeah. So if you're like a real life thing, it's like, well, I expect that there's gonna be lots of twists and turns, and you're gonna surprise me a few times. Um, like spoilers, like someone coming into this show, the TV guide probably tells you the end, you know? In 1959,
In
the TV
a
guide,
long line.
because I remember for Star Trek Day, someone posted the original description for the man trap, which just tells you the entire plot. Um,
Yeah, they like promos and whatnot. They really were more specific back in the day. They were going to tell you exactly what you were going to watch. And then I don't know, when did it happen where more of the intrigue came in? Like, oh, you're going to be so wowed with this movie.
I'm gonna Empire Strikes Back and Star Trek 2 would get that on the cinematic end, I think,
Uh
because those
huh.
had the spoilery things. As far as TV, I might say about Twin Peaks. Seems about the
Okay,
time when
yeah.
people
All
did
right.
not want to know what was happening in the next episode or in the one that, they did not want to be. That's when people didn't want to be spoiled anymore. Again, film promos from the 60s and 70s also sit there and tell you the entire plot, maybe even
Right,
have
that's
like
their
a few money
job.
shots of the climax, because
It's what they do. Yeah, entirely.
I mean, there's a certain degree. I'm weird. Like there is stuff I would like to prefer not to be spoiled on, and I'll do the media blackout thing if there's a few days before I can get to something. At the same time, I don't get enraged by a spoiler, and occasionally I go looking for them. Um,
Yeah.
like the film podcast I do, Films and Filth. We had to do like two 4-hour movies in like the same month, right?
Ooh.
And I
Yikes.
actually just went and read the entire plot summaries before I started the movies, just so I didn't have to like figure out what was going on while I was, watching these insanely long movies.
Yeah. Yeah. 4 hours. Oh man, that's a long freaking time.
So I fully like, to be honest, it was more like 3:45, but it's long.
Yeah.
But yeah, I pretty much like fully spoilered myself, like intentionally. Just yeah.
And that was probably, I mean, I'm guessing it was helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, just help me, like get through it and assess it better, right? It's like I don't need to be
Right.
spoiled. I need
Because,
to be able to talk about this from a critical point of view or something. So
right. Like you don't have to necessarily be figuring out the plot points. You know them. And then that can help you go to that deeper analysis you need to get to so that you can watch it once for your 4 hours and then and get there without having to go over it, over it, and over it, and over it again.
so maybe that's where the psychic did need to be a little bit intentionally vague because, Douglas does not want to be spoiled. He's one of those guys.
I mean, I think he was just enjoying the thrill of it. Like, oh, okay, you're psychic? Sure, tell me, tell me. And then she goes, I mean, what she sees and what she says, it's awful and terrifying. And it's just like, oh, she's just a crazy lady. Jeez.
And then he gets to have an unspoiled adventure. So
And then he gets to be creeped out. And you know what? It's all right. He ended up probably marrying that lady with the dark hair, just as Ellen said, and it's all good now. That's where the context comes in though. Like Ellen just she had only some information. She had what she had, but not everything to give him the clear picture. She's like, she has a knife. Oh, she's a surgeon. Oh. She didn't get that part.
the snake ring. I like how he flips out the snake ring. I just
Yeah.
assumed that was an Indiana Jones thing, but
Oh, I figured it was just like, oh, satanic demon.
probably a Slytherin. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely Slytherin. It was actually a really cool looking item though.
Very large. Doesn't look
Yeah.
practical. So I guess
It
something,
looks heavy.
yeah. I mean, you can like function your hand with that on. But I did
Right?
like how there's kind of a dark vibe through the whole episode. But the in the end, it's like no, it's more of an up with people vibe that you're getting. So
Happy, happy, joy, joy.
yeah.
Everything is okay.
Weird things happen for a reason and save lives. That's right.
Yeah. I was not expecting that in the least. I was fully expecting this guy to just be fully damned, and he was going to make some sort of fatal mistake that ultimately, one, proved the psychic correct, but also just his own some quality, maybe his stupidity or his lack of thinking in the moment. Something was going to totally just screw him over. And you know what? It was sort of refreshing that didn't happen.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, I actually got thrown by the twist because I was looking too much for something weird and dark to happen. So
Yeah. Yeah, I fully thought that's where this might be going, but then it's also a little too obvious looking back.
oh yeah, but that's kind of what makes it better as a twist because it's too obvious and you didn't get it.
Yeah. Right, like, oh man, fell for it, man. Also at the very end, I love what seems like in our day and age, like the clickbait preview for the next episode. I think you'll be shocked by what develops. It's like, you won't believe what we're going to do in the next episode. You got to watch it.
Well, if it's last week's The Sacred Mushroom, people might not believe what they're going to do, where they go down to Mexico and do shrooms.
Will they remember it? That's another question.
That's actually considered to be the most remembered episode of this.
Oh, is it really?
The series.
I was just making a drug joke.
No. I got that too, but I thought I'd take that for a little tangle.
Oh, how funny!
You did. I'm looking at my notes here. You did luck out a little bit in that you actually got to watch a good print. Some of these episodes are a little rough, but for people that are following along and maybe have watched a few ones that you got to squeeze your eyes a bit to watch. This one looks good on YouTube, so you can find a nice print.
It was not bad at all.
Yeah, so far I think we've been 2 good prints and 4 questionable prints for our One Step Beyond run. So, but you go troweling through 50s television, that's what happens, right?
Right. I imagine it's a vast grab bag and you get what you get because otherwise you don't have it at all, right?
Right. I do have my questions slightly rephrased. The first being who in this episode takes that one step beyond?
The person who takes that one step beyond?
Yeah.
It's got to be Douglas for getting completely freaked out.
Yeah, he's the obvious one. I mean, this episode's laser focused on him. So
yeah. But also, I think you could say Ellen the Psychic goes a step beyond too for tapping into her visions or whatever you want to call them.
Well, she's the supernatural element, although apparently she does this all the time. So that's just her thing.
Apparently, she's known for it.
Right. Because, I mean, she is like a person too. And then she does that like weird channeling stuff. So that's, like someone else. So, I mean, maybe she's just living that step beyond permanently, So
it's possible. Maybe, her step beyond is actually stepping into our reality.
Yeah. So she's already one step back from beyond. Sure.
Good for her.
Well, there was a later sequel to this show called The Next Step Beyond. So I guess the idea is.
Oh, was there really?
Yeah.
Now, when did that air?
I want to say the late 60s, early 70s.
Okay.
I haven't seen any. I just know it exists. I'm
okay.
Not even sure how available or not available it is. But I think the main writer and our director presenter do return for it. So
okay, cool. Good to know.
It's on brand. How about the lady on the train? Her name is.
She doesn't get a name, does she?
She doesn't. No, in my trivia, I wrote that alluring unnamed passenger.
Alluring passenger is her name.
Yeah, alluring passenger. Would you say she took a step beyond? She definitely survives an almost train wreck, which is at least a close call.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if she went a step beyond. I say she took an unnecessary leap of faith with Douglas.
Following this guy, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if she went beyond.
I mean, she could have been reading her own synchronicities of some different kind because she's following a man who seems unhinged. So
true. I mean, something was definitely going on with her, but what exactly? Hard to pinpoint.
Does Douglas deserve his trip beyond his step?
I gotta say, yeah. One, he was completely insistent on getting to Chicago one way or the other. If he can't fly, he's going to take this train, and all the pieces start to fall into place. He 1000% deserved what he got. He deserved to be spooked. But he also deserved to save all those people, and he did deserve a happy ending. So, I'm sure many years from now, he and his wife, they laughed about it, how the weird way they met, and it's okay. They're okay after a while.
Granted, now we're assuming that happens because the psychic says it, but the episode ends with the train being stopped, right? So we're just assuming she's right about that as well because she was right about the first thing.
I mean, she's been right about so many other things that I'm willing to believe her. How about that?
Yeah, in the context of his episode, for sure. But
yeah. Now, again, where is the missing information here, Ellen? What are you not telling people about this relationship?
I mean, they could,
because there's probably more to it.
Yeah, I mean, this could turn like to an Elizabeth Taylor, Richard Burton sort of relationship for all we know.
Right. Right. Yeah, we need the follow-up. We need the sequel. We need to know how they're doing.
It could be the worst thing to happen to them for all we know.
It's entirely possible, and yet that's omitted. So, yeah, okay, maybe it's not a happy ending, but it did happen.
Where do you want to put this on the tripometer? 0 is not trippy at all. 5 is extremely trippy.
Ooh, this is tough. You know what's fun is I hope you get a bunch of feedback where people are all over the map on where they fit on this scale. I'm gonna go for a solid 3.5.
Okay.
It's a fun ride.
You're going a little higher than me. I was thinking a 3.
Okay.
Me thinking it's a bit like a 2.5 of basic psychic trippiness, right?
Yeah, pretty average.
And another half point because I actually got thrown by the twist. So
yeah. I think what really sells me for it is the acting. Like, I genuinely believe this guy's terror. It's so good.
Yeah, I have been noticing that the show not maybe doesn't quite have the star power of the Twilight Zone as far as the guests, but it's drawing from the same pool. And we do get some people. I mean, I think
Cool.
We had like Elizabeth Montgomery. We got Big Sister. We got Big Sister Brando at least. So, and there's a few others that do have a few people you recognize. So,
nice.
I guess that's something to be said for the acting pool of Burbank in the late 50s, early 60s.
Yeah, not bad, guys.
Good for them. Did you have any other big observations you want to draw out on this one?
Let's see. I think we covered the big stuff. I did notice, like, the fact that they reuse the set pieces in a nice way to where you can't really notice it. Like, the hallway, the cabins are exactly the same, and they justify that because they're on a train. Why wouldn't they be the same? But it's just like, they're doing the show on a budget and they're finding a way to make it work in a very seamless way. I just appreciated that.
Oh yeah. The production realities of the time are definitely, I mean, it's weird when we watch things from late 50s and we're like, well, it's kind of cheap, but it's kind of like charming cheap. Whereas if you see it now, you see it in a modern show and you're like, what are they doing?
Right. That's so true.
Why does this look so terrible?
Speaking of 1950s sensibilities, I did notice that any person of color on the program was in some sort of a servant role.
Yes, we have the I guess a maid at the beginning, and that's it really. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that is one of the things where Twilight Zone, you might say it's too little, but it does have a couple of African American based episodes. I think there's at least 2 in the series where and putting, doing that in 1960 TV is not common.
Right. Like, this is a reflection of those times, and when you haven't visited the 1950s TV in a little while, I definitely noticed it. Like, wow, okay, things have changed. Definitely.
I mean, I guess an interesting thing about One Step Beyond is it's kind of lacking that progressive edge a little bit for the most part. I mean,
no, it's very 1950s.
Yeah, it's it's trippy, it's supernatural. So you do lump it in with the Twilight Zone, but it doesn't quite have that forward movement. When we did Death Watts, the one with Elizabeth Montgomery is called the Death Watts, and we were talking about there. I mean, we found several problems in the prologue for that, let's say. like when they're place setting, it's old west, and they're taught, there's the savages out there, which are the First Nation
Right.
folks, and you never even see them on screen, and they're going out and having hunting parties, and that's not even what the episode's really about. So
Sure.
it's like the Civil War, and it's just like, this is kind of a weird hodgepodge. So the this week's this week's prologue was written fine. The only thing I didn't like on that was one, people getting sore. There was one repeated word I didn't like. I can't find it now, but yeah, because I have to, unlike the Twilight Zone, I can't cut and paste. I have to transcribe the prologues. They're not online.
Uh-huh.
So I guess I pay a little more attention to them because I have to do that. But
Right. You got to copy it.
I
Sure.
would say that the prologues are generally one cut below a Serling prologue. So
Yeah. It's not quite as stylistic. Like Twilight Zone definitely has its vibe with the prologue, and Rod Serling has his approach for how he's going to deliver it. And maybe this host does too. It's just, it's not quite up to that bar. No.
well, John Newland's much more comfortable on screen, and his voice is much more, standard, good diction or whatever, right? Where
Sure.
Serling,
Yeah.
I think part of the thing is he didn't want to be on screen. He's kind of nervous and he speaks weird. So it's like, it's a white dude in a suit, but there's like this weird, like phasing out of reality feel because of those things. He doesn't seem quite right. And that makes
Mm.
him a completely iconic narrator. Where technically, I guess this guy would be like, in the conventional sense of the word, better, but he
More conversational.
doesn't have the special sauce. So
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good observation.
I guess we'll roll this one into port for today. I should have said that for the Navigator a few weeks ago, but yeah, what's going on in your sphere on the internet? I know Prodigy is still kind of a fit and start, although you did just have a new episode.
Yeah, we did release the panel that we got to do at Star Trek Las Vegas in August, and we had Dan and Kevin Hageman with us, and then Aaron Waltke just hauled from his flight. Once he landed, he went straight to the convention, got registered, and joined us on our stage, which was amazing. Talked with them about their careers, and because the rules are so weird, they were able to talk a bit about Prodigy and its future. We do discuss some of that, and it was a fantastic time. They are such wonderful, awesome, cool people to talk to. And just even not even during the panel, afterward, later, I ran into them at the bar, talked for a little more, and they're just wonderful. Love it, love it, love it. So we're still waiting to hear, though, about Star Trek Prodigy's future, where it might go, when we might get season 2. I have a feeling we will. It's just a matter of where and when. And so we're kind of waiting on that. In the meantime, because of the strike, we can't do a whole lot of talking about the show for Prodigy. The panel was one thing at the convention, and Michelle Hurd made sure that we could do convention stuff and people were not going to get in trouble because she's on the board to help make that thing happen. The rest of the time, we can't do product reviews. We're not dead in the water, but we're just in a wait and see mode. So when you do see something drop in our feed, that means something big has happened, but you probably already know that by the time you see it.
I guess I'm just kind of curious because I have no legal thing to be doing this. I'm just doing it because a lot of friends and guests are. So, but is it because Walkie's a writer and a producer, and the Hagermans are basically producers? I mean, they write.
Yeah.
Well, no, they've written some too. So yeah, that's kind of a.
Well, and the weird
As a
dynamic
producer, you
is
can.
animation.
Mm.
And it is a show right now without a home, which I think does add another dimension. But it's like we kind of followed our set of rules and they followed their set of rules. And thankfully that was compatible.
Yeah, I guess it's nice I don't have a set of rules, but we're still trying to, kind of like roll with the tide. And hey, it's an interesting detour. I got a message. I'm looking forward to when you guys get back to Twilight Zone. I'm like, oh, I am too. But yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? In the meantime, this was a fascinating show to watch. It was a good time.
Yeah, like I said, like no one seems to know of its existence. So I think Earl
Right?
Green did. I think he mentioned he had heard of it. But
Oh, of course, Earl knew. Earl knows everything. And speaking of like other things that we can talk about is genealogy, where they're going into Gene Roddenberry's earliest work before Star Trek And that's going into the Mission Log feed, but will eventually become its own podcast if and when Mission Log is able to come back. It's so good, you guys. If you're into this kind of stuff, you need to be listening to that show too.
Yeah, I listened to the first one. I mean, this is obviously fully focused on stuff Roddenberry did, but yeah, just kind of that different. Like, you don't really realize how different the 50s era of television is, even especially behind the scenes, you know?
Right. And what's really great is they do give some historical context. They kind of help you put your mind there. What's going on at the time? What's going on in the news and around the setting of the show, that sort of a thing. They talk a little bit about the production of the show too, and what tidbits they can get out of that. It's different than, say, like the scripts that I was reading in the 90s when I was studying that sort of thing.
Yeah, and I don't envy the we're reading scripts, because the few times I've tried to read this, ooh no.
They're pretty messy, aren't they?
Yeah. I mean, even Shakespeare, I mean, people hate reading it because you're not supposed to read it, you know? It's supposed to be performed.
Isn't that the truth?
So reading Shakespeare is basically like trying to read a screenplay filled with archaic language. So you're just double whamming yourself in that case.
And if you're going through raw material that's got notes scattered all over the place and however many revisions, I mean, it gets complicated really fast.
Yeah. As for this, it is Time Enough Podcast. If you want to support us, we're on Patreon at Podcastius, where we also talk about what are supposed to be really good films and really bad films about films and filth. And right now we're talking films all over the place, like, again, because of the strike stuff. A Call It Disney is continuing, basically, because that's animated, where we get into the weird stories behind the mouse. We're talking about Space 1999 with Podcast 1999. That's a pretty new one. Yeah, just dropped the first episode. And we got some gaming stuff. Luke loves Pokemon. It's about Pokemon. Hyrule Field Report about Zelda, and the game show where gamers game each other. Okay.
Ooh. Say that 10 times fast.
I think someone dared me and I did.
Nice. Hope you recorded that.
Yeah. Okay, I actually am going to go get on a train now, and hopefully don't need to pull any of these. Where do we have an emergency lever on the train? I don't think we have one.
You should look for one just in case.
Maybe I will today.
Side quest.
Yes, definitely not. Doesn't have, some buses have the rope, of course, but
that's true. Yeah,
but that's actually to tell the bus driver you want to stop and not to just grind the thing to a halt.
Right. So. Well, you're going to have to put in an update and let us all know, because now I'm curious.
Right. Yeah. Maybe I'll take some train pictures like the train otaku. Let me throw out to you the air date of this one. That will be October 1st.
All right.
Yeah. So that'll be
right,
because I did the mushroom. I already recorded next week's, and that'll be that. I'm trying to get ahead. Where we're kind of lucked out, where our company is going to drag us to Okinawa for a few days at the end of the month, which is
really?
Yeah,
cool.
They used to do that pre-COVID, and I just assumed it was off the table because we haven't done one of these trips in 5 years. But now it is on the table, so yay!
Nice, very cool. Say hey to Agnes Girardi for me.
Right on. Oh yeah. Go hang out. Well, I assume they're on the big island. We're going to one of the smaller islands.
Oh, okay. Well, that'll be fun. Nice.
If you ever find your way to Okinawa, the southern, I prefer the southern ones. I mean, I didn't get to choose anyway. I was just happy that's what they chose. So
yeah. Okay, I'll keep that in mind, because one of the many things to travel on my bucket list is to go to Japan, like anywhere in Japan. I've never been. I've never been in Asia even, but I would love to experience Japanese culture firsthand, because it just seems so cool.
Well, if you ever do target Nagano, because I'm hearing one valley over is another mission logger. So
okay, cool. I'll keep that in mind too. If I can convince my husband that we should move that up the list, I'll let you know. Because like we between the two of us, oh my God, we want to travel the whole world.
No, we don't travel much of anywhere here, but we're lazy in that regard. Do you ski?
No, I don't.
I don't either, but I live in like skier central, so we have some of the apparent, like about 50 miles from here are what are considered to be some of the best ski slopes like in the world. So
Oh, no kidding. Wow.
I
Cool.
went skiing once, but it's pretty expensive to rent all that stuff.
See, that's why I can't do skiing and I can't do golf because those are both very expensive hobbies.
Right. I got a snorkel in my closet for this Okinawa trip, so I'm covered on that. Don't need to buy the
Oh,
snorkel.
cool.
And then I just wear like fake Crocs as the instead of like flippers or something. But yeah, real nice tropical fish, that sort of thing. So that's my main
Cool.
jam there.
That'll be nice. That sounds amazing.
Okay. I will catch you later then. So let me hit the
All
record.
right.
And
Well,
as
thank you
always,
very much for the invite. That was fantastic. That was
oh
a lot of
weird, I'm
fun.
recording to the cloud today. What do you know?